Hello and welcome to episode 21 of the unofficial SAP on Azure video podcast. Today is December 11th, and together with Goran and Robert, we are here to talk about anything related to SAP and Microsoft. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hello.
We have only one more episode to go before we actually close this year. And in this episode, we have the pleasure to welcome Etienne and Leon on the show, or back on the show, at least to some extent. But before we head over to them, and they have some really, really amazing things to show, as always, let's quickly look back at this week. And obviously, we will quickly talk about TechEd. There are some interesting things on SAP TechEd, but there's also a lot of other stuff that I quickly want to cover. So in the past episodes, we talked a lot about the Go Local strategy from Microsoft, where we announced a lot of new regions across the world. And actually, we just announced another region to transform Chile. So apparently, we will have a new data center region and similar like in Denmark or in Austria. It's not only the data center that we're doing there, but we're really investing in the area. So I think this is a pretty interesting new development that is happening, and will hopefully really also help Chile in their digital transformation. Then another thing is the cooperation between Deutsche Telekom and Microsoft. So in the past, obviously, there has already been a lot of collaboration between Microsoft and Deutsche Telekom. But now in this new redefined partnership, as they call it here, it's really about a new strategic agreement, a strategic alignment. It's a lot about Microsoft 365, about Azure. Obviously, we have Azure regions in Germany. T-Systems is obviously playing a very big role in this. And I think this is fairly important also for Germany, because with GDPR, with all the trusted relations that are required in Germany, I think Deutsche Telekom has a very important role to play there. So there's even a short video with Tim Hetges, who's the CEO of Deutsche Telekom, and Satya, that you can look at. So I think that's really quite interesting, this announcement.
Maybe just to add, they are telling also on the text below that they will help customer moving their SAP environment in Azure. And I believe also a huge SAP hoster as well. So this is also part of their business, right? On one hand.
Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah. And they are, on the other hand, they are owner of the communication infrastructure. So this is also part, of course, crucial part when accessing the Azure. I mean, internet has to work for the cloud.
You somehow have to connect.
Yeah.
And that's actually something that Tim Hetges also really talks about there. And you're absolutely right. I think T-Systems is one of the biggest SAP managed service providers, I think actually also worldwide. So I think this makes a lot of sense on a lot of areas. There's also one thing that I have 3 kids, so for me there's also one thing that got pretty apparent in this current pandemic, and this is the support digital education efforts in Germany. And I am affected with my kids, and I have to say there is definitely a lot of room for improvement in Germany when it comes to the digitalization of German schools, I would say. And I don't know exactly what it means. There's only some high-level information, but I think Deutsche Telekom has offered to help really build up the infrastructure within the German schools, or the schools in Germany. And obviously, Telekom and Microsoft are collaborating here with Office 365, with Teams. And personally, I really think there's a lot of things that needs to be done. And maybe, or hopefully, this will also help there. So not only SAP on Azure related, but potentially also in the school sector.
Yeah, I don't think Germany's alone there in terms of, having, I suppose, issues with digital education. I think in Australia, we really struggled as well during the pandemic of digitalising the education system. But so absolutely, I don't think that's a problem just specific to Germany. That's for sure.
Unfortunately, I think that in Germany it's going worse than in other places. but yeah, let's see if we make some progress here. Yeah. Good. The next thing that I want to highlight is a blog post by Morgan. He announces a new Azure Deployment Automation Framework for SAP, and it's basically a continuation of this whole Ansible and Terraform scripts that we have released in the past. He outlines the vision, the next step, really focusing more on the configurational aspects of how to deploy an SAP system and stuff like that. And he's also linking to the GitHub repository. We have been on this GitHub repository before, so Azure/SAP.HANA. But actually there's now this beta version 2.3 where there's really a lot of things happening. And this is so maybe when you looked at the SAP HANA repository before, you saw that there was not too much activities here. But actually, the thing is that the team was really busy working on the new version, and you find the new scripts here in this GitHub repository. What I also like is there's actually a workshop, a deployment workshop available that really guides you step by step through how do you actually use these Terraform and Ansible scripts. And I really hope that this will help simplify the deployment or the automated deployment of an SAP environment on Azure.
Yeah, and even if you think just about the infrastructure deployment part, typically many customers and partners are telling they needed 2 weeks per system to deploy it, now, and we are also so this is when you think there are a huge number of systems which some customer would move, even hundreds. I mean, it would be amazing time of decreasing the deployment time. And if you think about the POCs as well, I mean, it's unbelievable speed up in the whole process, and plus the standardization, because there are so many details and best practices you need to set it up. And we tend to forget it, right? And then you realize later. So this means the overall quality will increase by employing the automation also during the setup process.
Absolutely.
So I think we can maybe organize. That could be one of the topics also, guys, in our teams with partnership here with the PMs. So it would be great maybe with the both sides to. Maybe as an idea, we could have it as one of the sessions. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
No, because you're absolutely right. I think there are multiple facets to this. There's the automation aspect, but also, as you said, I've worked with a lot of customers where this was not working, that was not working, and then it turned out, well, they forgot to enable accelerated networking, or they did a completely different disk layout, which is not according to our recommendations, or they used virtual machines that are not supported, or I mean, official certified by SAP for SAP workload or something like that. And if you have these automations, then a lot of things are simplified. And actually, Morgan points out that with this new idea, it's really about doing configuration. So you don't need to go in there from scratch and build your own environment, but you can really leverage what the team has done here, configure some of this stuff and adjust it there to your requirements and your needs there. Good, but that's a good idea, Goran. We'll see if we can get someone of the team there to talk about this in more details. Okay, and then this week we had SAP TechEd. I think it was a huge event. I'm not sure, 60,000 participants or something like that is what Jürgen Müller mentioned in the first keynote. A lot of sessions, a lot of online content. The good thing is everything is available now. So I got an email that here, there you go. So everything is there on demand now, so you can watch the sessions. I have to admit, I had very little time. I only watched basically the two keynotes by Jürgen Müller and also the developer keynote. And there were a lot of announcements. And probably we cannot go into too much details, but I want to start with something that actually Thomas Saueressig mentioned in one of the Q&A sessions there. And that's the announcement that SAP and Microsoft partner on the digital supply chain. So the DSC, the digital supply chain, is now available from SAP running on Microsoft Azure. So we've been working with SAP for quite some time on this. And it's not only a lift and shift or something like that. It's really that we've worked very, very closely with SAP on this. So we really looked at what past services are available from Microsoft Azure, what you can use there, what are the different DSC products that we can really make available on Azure, what are the benefits there, how can we integrate in different Azure solutions. The whole edge component, obviously is very, very crucial. Because especially in digital supply chain, I mean, it's not all digital. You need to, or you do have components on-prem, and you need to connect to different IoT devices and stuff like that. So there's been a lot of collaboration going into this, and I'm super happy to see this announcement now.
And one very interesting part, it's mentioning that it will be, the idea is to offer this software as a service, meaning model, in order to, so in that way, of course, customer, there is no need to deploy it and manage it, which is again, the hurdle, right? And that's also one very interesting, really big value proposition. Yeah, software as a service model.
Absolutely. And I think, if you look at supply chain, if you look at the digital supply chain, just look back at the recent month in this pandemic, it became so important. And I think, this collaboration just makes a lot of sense. So I'm glad that we can now talk about this, and that this is now out in the public. But actually, this was just a side note during TechEd. Obviously, there was the first keynote from Jürgen Müller, and I have to say, after Sapphire and after some other events, I was a little worried that it might not work so well. But I have to. I think it's absolutely worth watching the keynotes. And from a technology point of view, it's simply amazing. And actually, so apparently, I don't know if you know the show The Mandalorian that is currently running. So Star Wars, the Mandalorian, and when they produced this series, they use some completely new technology. So they're not using a green screen, but they're using huge LED or OLED screens, where actually the actor can see what's happening. So the actor is not working in front of a green screen where he has to pretend there's something, or where he's pretending to look at the sky or whatever, but he's actually looking there because there's this huge LED screen, so to say. And apparently SAP used the very same technology, and so they have these huge screens, and the background is rendered in real time. So there's this really nice interaction, and I think you can really see this, that the stage, the set is simply amazing. So I think it's definitely worth watching the keynotes there, because it's just visually stunning, I would say. In the keynote itself, in the first keynote, Jürgen was mainly talking about the extensibility, data to value, and integration. I think these were the three main topics. but there was also a huge focus on developers. So every developer is welcome, basically, and SAP really wants to address the whole developer range, from the hardcore SAP developer to the cloud native developer and so on. So I think that was really interesting, setting the stage. There are these two keynotes. They're both also available on YouTube. But what I most likely, or what I most enjoyed, to be honest, was the so-called developer keynote by DJ Adams, Rich Heilman, and I forgot the third guy. And they had created a beautiful scenario where there's one ABAP developer, where there's one cloud native developer, and then there's one that basically brings the different worlds together, and this showed in a real nice way, from my point of view, how you can use the SAP Cloud Platform, how you can use the ABAP in runtime, the Cloud Foundry environment, how you can use the Kyma environment, and how you can use some of these services available. And maybe actually this is something that we'll hear from Leon and Etienne in a second as well. But this demo, I think, showed this in a really beautiful way. So I can only recommend take a look at the video, and also they published all of the things that they showed in this GitHub repository. So you can also just follow this and do it on your own as well. Yeah. So this is definitely worth checking out.
I mean, it's a developer compliant, to put on a GitHub.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. For a developer keynote, it's good that it's on GitHub. Then one final thing. So obviously we couldn't cover anything, or all the things in our podcast, and obviously also when you watch the keynotes, there's only very little content out of all the content that was published during TechEd. So SAP has released this SAP TechEd News Guide 2020. And they are really, it's like 50 pages or something like that, or 46 pages with a lot of different announcements. So if you want to really know what was announced at TechEd, take a look at this guide. For me personally, there are a few things that there's now this free tier for the SAP Cloud Platform has been announced. So sometime in 2021. So it could mean December 31st of 2021, but sometimes in 2021 there will be a free tier of the SAP Cloud Platform. I thought that was really interesting after where we are currently with the SAP Cloud Platform. And the other thing that I thought was really interesting is the SAP One Domain model. So a first objects for the SAP One Domain model have now been published, which I think also shows that SAP is really making progress there on their whole approach to simplify the different business objects within the different SAP products. So also check this out.
That's great.
Good. And now I think I quickly talked about the different components with the SAP Cloud Platform, and I think Etienne and Leon, you had kicked off this amazing hackathon. I think you had this beautiful idea of doing more than just infrastructure and really looking, well, what can you do with SAP Cloud Platform and what you can do with Azure, and you teamed up with SAP. So maybe without me saying anything more, maybe you can quickly introduce yourself, and then I'm really looking forward to what you have done there.
Yeah, great, Holger. It's a great segue for us because you're absolutely spot on, right? IaaS is so last year. Everything is now microservices and APIs, right? So by means of introduction, I'm Etienne Dittrich. I'm a technologist in the strategic partnership team from Microsoft. And yes, I can't wait to give you guys a bit of a glimpse of what we did over the last few months.
Yeah, and I'm Leon Davis. I'm a cloud solution architect specializing in SAP. I work in our partner network here in APAC.
Cool.
Fantastic. So I've prepared a little deck for us to go through as we run through the talk track. But I just want to say that this event that we carried out really would not have been possible without the support we got from Murali Shanmugam and Maren Videnoff from
Absolutely.
SAP. Yeah, look, we were literally joined at the hip for the last few months, working away, trying to make a success out of this. But at the end of the day, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So I was very, very pleased to see the quality of the submissions that came in, and the hats off has to go to all of the participants who really helped us move the goalpost here in this hackathon. So what I'll do is I'll kind of start off with a little bit of an overview of how the event came to be, because I think, Olga, you've given the right backdrop there. Is look, we wanted to pivot away from the traditional SAP on Azure messages, which is really kind of centered around compute, storage, and network. Yes, we still saw some really awesome automation coming in that changes the game, but that is still very much an IaaS play. So given the fact that we wanted to do something a little bit different, we also thought about who are our key stakeholders in this environment. And an often overlooked demographic in the SAP and the Microsoft world, if you bring the two together, is the developer community. So that has kind of fueled this whole event for us. Is the event was conceived out of a desire to bring Microsoft and SAP developers closer to each other. So fundamentally, the event comprised out of kind of 3 online webinars. We had a kickoff session where we introduced the rules of play to all of our participants. Then we had a Q&A session, which was quite pertinent, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But our main event really kind of was a 2-week period where we invited our partners to kind of add so much to this, because everybody still had their day jobs to do. Our partners are the target for this event, and they obviously had customer engagements and migrations and deadlines to fulfill. So we were pretty upfront, straight up with our partner community, and said, look, we're putting a massive ask in here. We need you to go the extra way. It's going to be late nights and potentially weekends. But yeah, we got there in the end. Now, one of the key things that I think was really successful looking back, but was very critical at the start, was how we positioned the event. And we were very explicit to say that, look, if you just bring an SAP developer or you just bring a Microsoft developer to the party, you might be able to do some cool stuff, but to get the best out of both platforms, you really need skills and experts in both sides. Beautiful. So that kind of fed how we structured the teams, the team numbers and things like that. And Leon will touch on that in a little bit. But the other massive input to this whole event was really the enablement and the mentor participation in this event. Look, what we tried to do was something that has never been done before. We wanted to get participants together in the backdrop of a post-pandemic world where they could choose things like an industry or a community or an open innovation track. And then they had to choose a set of Microsoft services and a set of SAP services with some foundational elements in there, such as a mandatory Azure Active Directory. But yeah, this kind of all came together over the timelines that you see there. And obviously, a couple of weeks ago, we had our winners announcement, and it was really great to see those submissions. But I'll hand over to Leon just to talk us through some of the lead up and those planning and logistics to take us into that event.
Yeah, that's right. So obviously we thought we had a pretty interesting event on our hands. We thought this is pretty cool, but we wanted to make sure that we would get the participation. So we sort of started off with a bit of I suppose an expression of interest, just sort of because obviously working in the partner space myself. I could easily just reach out to a few partners, just send a few relaxed emails just saying, hey, we're thinking of putting on this hackathon. We're thinking something along the lines of this, something maybe instead of, because as Etienne said, this ran for over 2 weeks. Your more traditional hackathons, usually 2 days, you're in site, on site together, working away, and you get it done. But in obviously the pandemic that we're in at the moment, that's not possible. So yeah, we sent this out to the email, and the responses we got were overwhelmingly positive. We had partners who were like, so excited, they're like, when can we start? Can we start now? And I'm like, hey, hang on, guys. Let us build up the event first. Let us get there, and then we'll get you on board. But yeah, so that was really good. And the other part of it, we also, as Etienne said, we'd never really run something like this before. So it was sort of about us teaching ourselves and making sure we could actually do the event. So we ran through a dry run. And so that was just for us to build confidence and also to test, the platform that we're going to use to run the event. So we did that by putting 4 internal teams together, and they were made up from a mixture of SAP and Microsoft experts. And Holger, you were in there as well, and Etienne, I think you were in one of the teams, and we had I think 3 days, I think, was it the dry run?
It was very quick.
Very quick one, just to test it out. And the platform we decided on to run the event was Microsoft Teams. So by doing that, we could create.
Else?
Yeah, of course. We've got to use our own products. And then, we create one Microsoft team, and we created these the sub channels underneath for each team, and that was secured for each one. So that inside their sub channel, you could chat with each other, real-time sharing of files, that sort of thing, work on files together. But the big part of it was that we could test having the mentors as having access to all those channels, so they could be tagged for questions for support, and that was something that worked really well. So the dry run was a success. And then we worked with marketing and set up our registration pages and the like, sent out our invites, and we got 11 partners registered for the event.
Yeah, so before we go on to the partners, I just wanted to add that I was pretty nervous that I wasn't sure if we could actually string together real life scenarios by taking a handful of SAP services and a handful of Microsoft services. So the dry run obviously also had a great impact to reduce my own nerves, to say, yes, if I can work with some SAP guys and we can string together some great integrated scenarios in a couple of days, then we've got hope that our Microsoft and SAP experts in our partner organizations should be able to do something meaningful too. So that got a check in the box. And talking about partners, why not give them a little bit of a shout out?
Yeah, for sure. Did you want to share your screen, Etienne?
Is my screen not shared?
No.
Nope.
Let's go for it. I am so sorry about that.
That's all right.
Go.
And by the way, we are using Teams for all those up on Azure YouTube channel, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah. So you can see that we had a wide range of teams joining, or participants coming with the event. And a shout out to obviously NTT, was probably the best name of the lot. Data Cowboys from out of Sydney. I think that's a cracking team name. So yeah, that's great. But we had a mixture of GSIs, and we also some local, more bespoke LSIs as well. You can see with Incture and Bourne Digital as well. So that was great. It was great to see. And we set some ground rules with the registration. So no minimum number of teams. So you can see Accenture and DXC have registered a few different teams, but we just set a limit on number of participants in each team. So we set it so the minimum of 2 people, maximum of 6. And obviously those teams had to be made up of SAP and Microsoft developers. So which is sort of leads on to something that Etienne touched on as well, is this collaboration component, because something I didn't realize until we got into the actual event and was speaking to partners is that, that probably some of the big GSIs and, have got probably siloed departments. They'll have a group of Microsoft developers or experts on Azure services, but may not have much SAP experience, and vice versa. There may be a team of SAP developers in that same company who maybe haven't got much to do with some of the Microsoft guys. So this really was, we were collaborating, the companies Microsoft and SAP together to run the event, but on the other side, the GSIs and the partners were really putting their teams together to come up with that. And I think that was really good, and hopefully going forward, that's going to really improve the networks inside each partner as well. Yep. Yeah, so that's something I think is a really big plus from this event. So for this hackathon, we needed to have both SAP and Microsoft experts to help our partners as well. So that's where the mentors came in. I think, did you want to speak some on the mentors there, Etienne?
Yeah, absolutely. As I mentioned earlier, the whole success of the event really kind of depended on our mentors, because the kind of stuff these folks did was again over and above their day job. I've seen some of the mentors still in the group chats or the channel chats with the participants over weekends, late at night. I've seen some of the mentors jump in, log on to the SAP Cloud platform or Azure subscriptions and troubleshoot and debug with the participants and help them get there. Sometimes we couldn't get stuff completely working, then the mentors jumped in and they recommended alternative solutions to get to the same result. So it is just amazing that all of the people you see here on the screen really contributed to the overall success of the event. And you probably might see a couple of familiar faces in the top line there. So hats off and thank you for everybody that has really kind of jumped in. An interesting statistic I wanted to raise was that each of these mentors had an enablement session, and the idea of the enablement session was just to explain to the participants, what their area of technology or their specialist skills are, and then maybe give them some practical use cases of where the technologies or services are used, not necessarily in an SAP Microsoft integrated fashion, but just to kind of stimulate the thought patterns on the participants of what they could do with these services. And interestingly enough, those online enablement sessions that actually overran the 30-minute slot that we time boxed, which I think is a very small time to try and tell anybody about SAP Conversational AI or Power Apps. It's very time boxed, but there were a few sessions that ran into the 45-minute mark. And incidentally, those services in those sessions were actually the top 2 used services on both Microsoft and SAP's side, looking back at the hackathon. So maybe if we do it again, we want to get a little bit of healthy competition going into the mentors to make sure that they tout their products or their services a little bit more accurately. So yeah, we've now seen that, look, the core planning team was very critical to the success. The mentors, absolutely critical to the success. But at the end of the day, we also want some partial evaluation of the process. And Leon will take us just through kind of the judging process and how that all worked.
Yeah, so big thanks to the judges, because we had, essentially, you could see here, we've got 3 judges on each side from each company. So because the teams, had to come up with a submission. The submission itself was a short PowerPoint based on a template we provided. The PowerPoint included, they had to put in there some architecture diagrams and a bit of an explanation on the challenges that they were trying to tackle and the solution that they come up with. But they also had to put together a 3-minute video of their application or solution in flight. And out of that, so all the judges obviously had to consume all that material and watch all the videos. And then after that, we gave them a score sheet. And out of that, there was 4 key areas that we wanted them to focus on: business applicability, feasibility, creativity and innovation, and sustainability and community impacts. So yeah, they would make a score. I think we had it out of 5 for each area, and then they'd submit that to us, and we got them all back for the winning ceremony. And a short little story on the winning ceremony is where I aged a little bit, because I was the one who drew the short straw for sharing my laptop and sharing the presentation and the likes. And so my laptop's been a rock ever since I've got it, but I don't know what happened on this day. But anyway, I decided I was sharing the material. We had an MC from SAP who was going to talk through and run the event. So I was going to record it. As soon as I clicked record, everything locked up. My CPU fan was screaming at 100%, and I couldn't do anything. I couldn't mute myself. I couldn't, I could hear everyone. The videos had all stopped. This is nothing to say that Teams is a bad product, but anyway. So anyway, I couldn't mute. I've got a dog here that loves to bark during meetings. I don't know how he knows when I'm in a meeting, but he'll probably start up in a minute. So I was just sitting there for the whole meeting, just praying that it was recording, flicking through the slides, and just hoping that my laptop didn't crash. Anyway, I got through the event.
But it's flying blind. How cool!
Yeah. The recording works. So yeah, go teams, thumbs up. Yeah, so that was my experience. I don't think my beard was this grey 2 weeks ago.
So that's a great segue, Leon, because we've got some cool stuff in store to kind of wrap up this session. So I think if you guys are all happy, we'll go into kind of a bit of an overview of the 9 submissions we received as part of the hackathon. And what we will do in the summary of each submission is we will kind of call out which track of the event they chose to compete in. We'll talk about the challenge that they try to overcome, and what the solution is they built to overcome that challenge, and then give some personal insight or feedback on what was pretty cool for us as individuals watching those submissions and videos and reading through their presentations. So if everybody's okay, we'll jump straight in.
Just one thing, Etienne. So
yes.
The thing is, really, the partners were completely open what they could use. So if they have skills on the SAP Cloud Platform, they could choose some services on the SAP Cloud Platform, and then they saw, well, but there's a cool service on Azure, so I'll also use this service on Azure, and then they could build a solution on top of this. So it was really up to them to select what services they could select and use. And I mean, personally, I think that's exactly what we want to convey to customers, that SAP has a beautiful platform with the SAP Cloud Platform. Microsoft has a beautiful platform with Azure, and it's really up to the imagination of the customer to pick and choose the services that work best for them. And I think in your hackathon, you made that really happen, and
absolutely,
yeah, so
right.
I'm really
so here I'm just quickly sharing to you guys what some of those ground rule services were. So we talked a bit earlier about how we use the dry run to validate that and remove my own nerves to make sure we can string these things together. But fundamentally, the rules of engagement were Azure Active Directory was a foundational service that everybody had to use. So because identity is key, security is key to any kind of solution. So AAD was mandatory for everyone. Then on top of AAD, each participant had to use a ground rule service, a minimum of one of each side. The ground rule services on the SAP Cloud Platform side was SAP HANA, SAP Data Warehouse Cloud, SAP Conversational AI, the SAP Cloud Platform Portal, and SAP Business Application Studio. The ground rule services on the Microsoft side were obviously our data stores, which include things like Data Lake, HD Insight, Azure SQL, or even blob storage. From a visualization and analytics perspective, we nominated Power BI as one of the services that they can choose. The Azure Bot Framework, clearly also an option. Power Apps or the Power Platform, very key there with Power Automate, and then of course some cognitive services and Azure Functions that kind of close that loop. But the rules were fairly wide open and said, look, you can use anything you want from anywhere you want, as long as you use AAD and one of the left-hand side and one from the right-hand side. And a little bit later on, we'll just go through some analytics to see what these participants actually used and how many of these services were in the submission. So that's a little bit of an interesting retrospective or reflective look at it. But yeah, it was great, Holger. It's so true. There are so many things that you can literally string together, and I think the low code, no code idea is perfect for us to work in the concept of a hackathon, and even taking forward to customer scenarios, because we don't have to be in-depth experts in C# or in ABAP or in Java. So that's where cloud-based development and configuration stories come into play.
Cool. Yeah, low code is a good word actually here, because this enables non-real developer to do something there and in a fast and easy way. So that's really, I mean, a huge value which is being given now through the new way of consuming the platform services, so to say. Cool.
Absolutely.
You can also see there at the top was the 3 tracks there. What was it? Probably just go back. Yeah, so community, industry, or open innovation. So we really didn't limit them too much, and they could pretty much go wherever they like in that side of things.
Exactly. Look, we painted a backdrop of a post-pandemic world. We wanted them to keep that in mind, not to have too much free reign. We wanted the submissions to be relevant to the world we live in, and they needed to be applicable. No point in a participant creating something absolutely fantastic with tens of thousands of integration points, but it's just not feasible to be implemented, and it's not quite relevant to a business problem. So we took some shaping and forming of the ground rules, but when it came to the choice of services and how they want to use it, you'll probably find that when you look through the submissions, you'll see some had more of an SAP kind of entry point to the solution with an Azure backend. Some more had a Microsoft entry point and had more of an SAP backend. So there were some really cool examples that came through in that space.
Cool. Let's take a look.
Fantastic. So I'll take us through the first few and then pass over to Leon. But DXC Technology, team gone viral. They built a solution in the industry track, and their solution adds value to travel and transportation entities. In their solution, they address the challenge of massive and often disparate data sets that's really hard to consolidate and gain real-time insights from. Interestingly enough, the team mentioned prior to the hackathon that this is actually a long-standing problem they've been trying to solve. They've been really thinking about it and arm wrestling with it, but now it seems as though they've really found a way by blending the SAP and Microsoft technologies together to address that problem that they have. So, but sticking to the hackathon brief of a post-pandemic world, their submission was really very relevant and about how public transport can benefit from intelligent analytics after COVID, because obviously everybody's going to go back onto work. In our lockdown environments, trains and buses were probably not running to full capacity. Now there's going to be a big rush to get back into the game, so to say. So the solution that they built was leveraging something called the General Transit Feed Specification, which is a public data source with all public transport information in various guises. So they hooked up to the Transport for New South Wales bus data as a data set and ingested this data using an Azure function. And from there, they used Azure Data Factory to coordinate multiple small data sets into an ADLS Gen 2 store. And that was obviously easy to bring straight into the SAP Data Warehouse Cloud, where they started visualizing on top of that through Power BI. Now, they also had a Power App that went straight into trip level detail. So you could actually see how many passengers are on a list. They had some machine learning and things like that to be able to predict more delays of certain buses and transports. So, but when I was watching this submission video, I was like, this is really relevant. I can see this add value, because all of these different transport entities store their data everywhere else. And, at the end of the day, it's the citizens that are impacted by bus delays that are not very happy. So this is the opportunity to make a difference. But in like a true Marvel style, there was this hidden scene behind the credits, which I think is why Team Gone Viral got the first prize in here, because the ability for them to transform the solution and apply it to other cases was amazing. At the end of their submission video in the hidden credits, they showed a very quick clip of how easy they can amend the ingestion function to point to a different data set, and in like 10 seconds their whole solution ported from Sydney's public transport to Brisbane's, and that was just amazing to see that. Cool. Look, it's great. It was awesome. So very cool, very good professional submission. Really enjoyed watching that. Now, our second place or our runners up came from Bourne Digital. Absolutely fantastic submission. They created a enterprise risk management solution. Although the solution can really be leveraged cross industry, it really has relevance to employee health and safety. Now, the challenge is that as more and more workers return to the office, companies are looking at ways to streamline that process, but also keep employees safe and healthy. And to that extent, Bourne Digital used a great animated movie as part of their submission, where they told the story about David, who returned to work too early after a COVID test, and in the process actually risked infecting his colleagues, and the risk of the building having to be cleaned was pretty real. So their solution actually blended some SAP and Microsoft technologies to avoid these scenarios, and they can then ensure that companies can keep employees safe in the post-pandemic world. So what does their solution entail? Now, their solution is amazing because it uses a thermal screening terminal with a camera that captures the face or a photo of the employee trying to enter the building, as well as temperature statistics. And that data is then passed through a whole set of authentication via Face API, hooks into a backend ECC system to see if building access can be granted in case of the scenarios where people want to come back to the office. There's a very big process built into the backend ERP. For example, they need to provide a medical certificate, or they need to provide a negative test results that's attached via Fiori front end into the backend. And it was really well told and really well created. But my insight into this came a little bit early when I realized that the hackathon really has got some good ground going, because I was trying to facilitate some discussions between Bourne Digital and some of our mentors as part of the hack. And when I realized that they are trying to integrate Face API with SAP, I just thought, man, this is awesome. Because before the hackathon, if anybody had to mention Face API and SAP ECC in the same system, I would have liked to get that fact checked, because I'm not sure that's ever a scenario. But they've did it, they've built it, and we've got it. So really cool. Well done, Team Bourne Digital. That was great. Our third place winner is the Team Wolfpack from Incture. They chose the open innovation track, but their solution is very relevant to public services, specifically firefighters. And they got really down to the T, very relevant to the geography of the hackathon. And everybody would know that Australia is well known for their bushfires. Now, Wolfpack had this desire to improve agility and responsiveness of authorities reacting on these disasters. And they specifically wanted to reduce the delays of communicating the states of emergencies. And they wanted to leverage data to make future projections about impacts of bushfires and potential causes thereof. And they wanted to make sure that the public has visibility on the statuses of big disasters in their area. So what their solution entailed was a mobile app that can be used by the residents and citizens of Australia, as well as the government of Australia, to really tackle bushfires. So alongside the mobile app, they've got an admin panel that authorities in the backend can use to track incidents. But the public primarily interacts via the SAP Cloud Platform portal and mobile services, where they can actually report new incidents of bushfires coming on. And then they created a really good SAP conversational AI bot that provides interactive guided procedures for their users to raise incidents or check those status of existing fires. Their solution incorporated Azure machine learning and Power BI visualization. So when I looked at this, I clearly saw the relevance of the solution to the problem at hand. Bushfires in the community track is really good. But what impressed me very, very much is how they used Azure machine learning to train a model to actually predict causes of bushfires. Now, obviously, in the hackathon scenario, they used US fire data sets to drive this model. But in their submission, it was really clear that this can definitely add value.
And they started from scratch also. They didn't have any pre-built models or whatever. They really started.
No, absolutely not. So as part of the let's call it the subscription model for the hackathon. Obviously, SAP helped to give us SAP Cloud Platform subscriptions. We used the Microsoft 365 developer program with predefined data sets and those kind of things, and free Azure subscriptions. But we did help quite a lot of teams to get their Azure ML Studio up and running as well, where they did train those models themselves from scratch. So really amazing to see that. Yeah. Now, if we look at the next one, this is Accenture. Their application is titled Return to Work, and the team name is Accenture Innovators ANZ. So you could probably see by the entry point, there is that exact Microsoft 365 sandbox data that is in there, some SharePoint calendars and things like that. But the open innovation track is what Accenture Innovators ANZ shows. They also followed the brief pretty well, and they incorporated a return to work, a COVID safe kind of solution. Their biggest challenge that they faced was how can we ensure that we can get workers back into the office, working safely, not having to be afraid, and how can we also plan our capacity, especially if different countries or different states go through various levels, maybe a level 2 or a level 3 lockdown, and then social distancing might come in. So very important to have that workspace planning capability for customers to implement. So they used primarily the SAP's conversational AI features, but obviously surfaced that through Teams that can integrate with SharePoint calendaring. On the SAP Cloud Platform, they built a Node.js application to get data such as employee details from success factors, and obviously their booking data in a HANA Cloud database. Now, their solution also added the functionality where employees can actually raise cleaning incidents by simply taking a photo of the desk or the spillage or something like that, and that then uses the adaptive card notifications on our platform to raise a work order in a cleaning channel for the cleaning team to come in and make sure that the environment is safe and healthy for employees to sit back in the office. In addition to this, they use great calendaring to see that if I want to meet with Holger in the office, I want to probably have a bit of a face-to-face chat with Holger and say, let's troubleshoot this problem. In that case, they had the shared calendaring integration where you can see, well, Holger is in the office on Wednesday, so I think I'm going to put my request in to come into the office on Wednesday so we can work together and spend some face time together. So yeah, I think the thing that stood out for me here was just the excellent use of the developer tools, specifically on the Microsoft 365 side. They really made a lot of use of that M365 developer program with the sandbox subscriptions and the test data sets and the test users and all of those things. That was really, complemented and really nicely finished by some awesome visualizations that they used on the SAP Cloud Platform side in a Fiori app as an example. So as you can see, yet again, lots of different tools, lots of different services, and good sticking to the brief. Well done, Team Accenture Innovators ANZ. That was really a pleasure to have you guys on board. So now we go into Leon's territory to take us through the last 5.
Yeah, cool. So this is another one from Accenture. So this is from Team AIKon, titled Enterprise Digital Transformation COVID Situation. So this one, you can see it's got a bit of a, I suppose, cross-track where it's industry, manufacturing, utilities in this example, but also has, also touches on community by implementing COVID safe practices for employee health and safety. So they challenged themselves. They asked themselves, how can they, how can you reduce machine and hardware failure, but at the same time keep employees safe during these COVID times? So they implemented a end-to-end predictive maintenance solution, so sensor and IoT data feeding into IoT Hub, machine learning, for analysis. But out of that, it would raise a work order or an alert, and out of that, it would feed into SAP Cloud Platform. So creating workflow and a work order in SAP Cloud Platform. But to keep maintenance workers COVID safe, They implemented sort of touch-free scanning of work orders by QR codes. They put in some speech recognition in there so they could talk to the solution to kick off a work process. And then they had cameras in there that would detect if the technician was wearing a mask or not, using our low AI solution. So that was pretty cool. So I mean, this is great. I mean, but realistically, this is probably, I think, the most complex solution out of all the submissions. You can see just the sheer number of services they've touched on here in this one is amazing. Lots of different services integrated together. You can see also in there that they were the only team to use the Azure API management, so to tie all the APIs and microservices together. That's pretty cool. And there was a cheeky moment where they've actually used Alexa for the voice recognition component. So that was quite interesting. I don't know what our judges thought of that, but I don't think they penalised them for that. So that was pretty cool. And probably go to the next one.
There we go.
Thank you. Team EY, they're intelligent communities. So obviously this is down the community track. Their aim was to assist communities to make a positive difference by use of technology. So that was their brief. They basically streamlined how COVID-related information was being presented to the community and to assist the interaction with government departments as well. So they created this community portal, which obviously was based on Power BI, as you can see in the architecture diagram there. So it would contain the latest COVID data in their area. The end user, as in the public, could then use Power BI to stream, filter the data down to their area, to their postcode or suburb. But it also had an intelligent chatbot in there as well, so that they could ask questions and raise concerns and request also COVID-related permits if you need permits to get into a particular area or something like that. So and that would feed then into a government department dashboard as well, which was quite nice. Concise dashboard for tracking the inquiries from the public, as well as the permit requests were all being put together in one nice view. And it also gave some nice stats as well, on what the requests were coming in from the community as well, which is quite cool. So a very relevant scenario for in the times that we're living in. So really good submission from EY. Great use of Power BI and the dashboard. Some really good visuals actually. The dashboards were quite pretty, really good looking, and and the chatbot functionality was great because it would sort of, they could ask questions and it would feed back COVID related information and where can I go to I don't know, get tested or something like that. So it could, the chatbot itself could stem a lot of or mitigate a lot of these inquiries from actually reaching the end, like putting strain on government departments. But then if it was an inquiry that wasn't in the bank that it could respond with, it would start asking more questions to create the inquiry, like, what's your email address, what's your phone number, and out of that it would create the inquiry for them. So that the public wasn't filling in a form or anything like that. They were just talking to a chatbot, and out of that the inquiry would be raised. So that was really cool. So that's a really cool effort from EY. So Team New Millennial by DXC. So they had their Oxy submission. So Oxy, definitely another community track. And we're going to see, I think there's a bit of a theme going here with a few of these submissions around returning to work. But what they did is their challenge was adapting workplace challenges and the role of the office in the post-pandemic world. So how to provide a safe and productive and enjoyable experience for everyone. So the solution they came up with is with Oxy. Oxy is like a personal assistant to help you book a hot desk while also helping you coordinate with your colleagues. And we saw that similar in one of the other submissions. So they could, looking up their colleagues, what days they're going to be in the office. What's interesting though, they've also got Qualtrics in there. They were gathering, if the assistant could also ask questions around, how they're feeling and all that sort of stuff, and gather well-being information, which was quite interesting. So it was a nice mobile app. It would go back and forth between Teams and Fury booking-based systems quite well. It looked quite great. The interactions with the bot was great. Funnily, they had data set of users which was based on all the hackathon core team and the mentors. I think had everyone
and the judges, right?
And the judges as well. So yeah, that was cool. So you could see it in their presentation. They were using us. So that was a nice touch. Yeah, I would have liked to seen Qualtrics. I didn't see much around apart from it asking questions. I would have liked to see how they presented that data back to management or HR or something like that, because I think that would have been interesting as well to see how they were using that data.
But it's a great idea of kind of going a little bit outside of the brief, or not outside of the brief, but kind of looking clearly, getting the ground services in there, getting the foundational Azure Active Directory right, but then bringing in some other PaaS and SaaS services. We've seen success factors here. We see Qualtrics. It's great to see the participants going that creative.
Exactly. Yeah, it's great. So well done. Next one. So Accenture, so Team AI Avengers. So their COVID workplace enabler. So again, sort of community returning back to work type track. So they wanted to streamline the processes on helping COVID infected employees return safely to the office. So a little bit different. Using an interactive chatbot again. So chatbots are very popular through this hackathon for sure.
I guess post-pandemic world, nobody wants to interact too much face to face. So use digital twins, use chatbots.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, they use the chatbots, Azure Bot Service, SAP Conversation AI. Employers, they would go through this mandatory questioning with this AI, asking around their health and well-being. And as part of the process, they'd also have to upload their recent COVID test. That obviously goes into the Azure Forms Recognizer. It'd capture it and analyze the information inside the form. And then the chatbot would also follow up with some survey questions and the likes to present that back to management. So that's the other side of it, is they had these pretty nice looking dashboards that for management to analyze the stats from not only the results of the COVID testing and the likes, but also the survey results. And they also had sort of a bit of a workflow in there where you could approve and reject submission forms and the likes, which was quite good. So another good example of the chatbots at work. The management dashboard they put together could be really useful. I mean, it's interesting because we get a lot of data, as part of COVID, showing the countries and the hotspots and the likes, but this would actually show hotspots within your company. So if you had, you may have a hotspot in the US or in New York or something like that. The New York office is a problem or something like that. That a lot of our employees are infected in these particular regions. So that's quite interesting, something you wouldn't get from regular information. So yeah, that was quite good. And they overlaid that you can see it, I think, up the top left there, overlaying that data across the map as well, which was nice. So yeah, really good effort. And our last one from our data Cowboys out of Sydney. So from NTT, their digital concierge. So again, another community and returning to work type solution. So they wanted to ensure COVID regulations are adhered to inside the workplace. So when everyone's returning back to work, there may be some rules around, keeping everyone safe. And obviously to reduce the risk of any COVID spread. So they came up with this nice, interesting solution using IoT to capture employee numbers in high traffic areas. If you think like lunchrooms and kitchens and those sort of places. So they offered this data back to the employees via a digital concierge. So employees could ask the concierge a range of questions like which kitchen is least busy, or where's an office department located, so people aren't wandering around the building looking for something. They know exactly where to go. But it also would factor in maintenance information. So if you have air filters in the office, they could ask, what air filters need to be changed, and it'd give you information around that. So that was pretty cool. They did use Azure Digital Twins. I think they were the only one who used Azure Digital Twins, but basically to duplicate the office. And you can see the dashboard up there, with the lovely Natalie Portman up there at the top, as well as the digital concierge. But you can see the graphs underneath, Natalie, there. That's actually showing user traffic, so people in different areas. So you can see the graphs going up and down as people walk in and out. So that was quite cool. So yeah, a really interesting submission there from
and
the data.
as an added bonus, they use text to speech and speech to text, and Padme Amidala was talking to you when you watched the video. So really cool, Data Cowboys from out of Sydney.
Yeah, it was great. Really.
So that kind of brings us to the end of the submissions. What I want to do is just kind of take us through a very quick overview of essentially what the composition of the services were. So obviously we'd expect to see Azure Active Directory as one of the foundational services that needs to be pretty clear in there. Just note that when we reviewed the submissions, it wasn't necessarily very deep dive into every line of code, but in two of the submissions we weren't 100% sure, or it wasn't absolutely evident that AAD was used. So we're making the assumption that all 9 submissions used AAD, but to no surprise, the top 2 services that were used were on the SAP side, obviously conversational AI, which I think really relates well to the post-pandemic world. We're bringing in bots, and it's also incidentally a shout out to Johnny Liu from SAP who ran the enablement sessions for SAP Cloud conversational AI. Now on the Microsoft side, I think visualization Power BI was really popular in most of the submissions we saw. But also glad to see, we're starting to use a lot of Azure functions. Power Apps on the Microsoft side got some good usage in there. On the SAP side, the Business Application Studio was used by quite a lot of participants and contestants. And as we look through, Azure Face API that I talked about earlier, never thought that we'd see that in an SAP Hackathon or even in an ECC system. So good one there. And yeah, look, lots and lots of different services strung up together. And all I can say is it was amazing to be able to be part of this journey and just work with the participants, work with the teams involved, learning from the mentors, watching some of those enablement session replays, just because it's great for us as a core team also to be really involved and also learn from all of this. It was pretty amazing.
I really loved the having the ability to look across all the sub channels in Teams, because you could see teams asking questions to mentors answering and going, wow, what? I'm thinking, what are they building? That sounds really interesting. So, yeah,
absolutely, because you kind of get like an input and you see an SAP service or a Microsoft service and you see the interaction with the mentor. So, okay, well, this is going to be conversational AI or this is going to be a Power App. So it was great to see that interaction as well.
And I think what I really love to see out of this the Power BI dashboard, it's not like there's a clear set of SAP services that are used by all of them, or there's a big number of Microsoft services. It's really this mesh of services. And I think also in the scenarios that you showed, it was not like 90% were Microsoft and then there was one dummy service on the SAP side that was used, but it was really a beautiful blend of technologies.
Absolutely right, and I think we also learned from that, and I think we really have to think very well about the role that those core services play, right? So we were very fortunate that these core services were all used. There was not a core service that wasn't used, so that kind of give us a little bit of insight into how we need to structure the next one. I think a lot of effort and time will need to be spent about defining the rules of engagement for the next hack. We want to be creative, but we also don't want to be that creative that it's virtually impossible to string those services together. So good learning there. And Holger, as you say, great balance of technologies and services used on the SAP Cloud platform and on the Microsoft platform. Really awesome. So I think that we're just about to wrap up, and I'll just pass over to Leon to just run us through, we've got in store, right?
So excitingly, we've got approvals to start looking at the next one. So we're hoping we can kick one off next year, early next year. So yeah, same again, and this time I'm hoping it's going to be bigger and badder and better. And so we'll see how we go. So at the moment we're also gathering a lot of information from the participants of this original hackathon, and out of that and from the lessons learned, we will try and improve and build this further. So absolutely, it's.
But Leon, I think right now you were focusing on partners in Australia, and I hope, or I would expect that if we show this in this podcast, but obviously also I saw a lot of tweets on Twitter and on LinkedIn, some publications. I am 100% sure that there are a lot of other partners out there in Germany, in the US, across the world who are thinking, well, I have this kind of skill set. I have a Microsoft department. I have an SAP department. What about them? Should they also join your hackathon?
And let a little bit expand, not just a partner, but anybody, So meaning, I'm just wondering, I would love to have those kind of example publicly available on a GitHub. Just to maybe try it, just to try it, because I mean, what I see, it's I'm blown away. You see such an easy way to integrate whatever you like, and you just have the boxes, you have a connector, as you mentioned, low code or no code. And but the example is always valuable, and something which is available me just for a try would be, I mean, just as an idea, wonderful for the global community, partner, customer, whatever, whoever, So maybe if you think in that direction as well, maybe to publish it something.
Look, we're really excited about being able to have had a successful inaugural hackathon. As I said at the start, we were a bit nervous. We're not sure how things were going to go. Obviously, everybody came together, from the mentors through the experts, through the participants, and everyone else came together, and we got to thank them. So yes, we are actually looking at doing it again. I think Microsoft Australia and SAP Australia put their hands up first, and they said let's do it again. But obviously, we want the whole world to do this, Goran. We want to have our customers and our partners use both of our technologies, and we really want to see that innovation go right. Because as I said at the start, IaaS is so 2019, man. We gotta get with it, right? We gotta go innovative, as simple as that.
For sure. And I was going to say, Holger, when you said, if we can go global and do that, just be careful what you wish for, because remember, you're a mentor, so you've got to support all these people.
Yes. And look,
create a mentor bot, there.
Exactly. But also, practicalities like it takes a lot of time for all of the judges to go through 9 or 10 submissions. There's 3-minute videos. That's a half an hour of their time. There's presentations that they've got to look through. Now, so some of the judges remarked that, look, they started off really enthusiastic and they saw stuff and they scored, but as they saw more and more, they had to go back and watch again, because now you get the benchmark. So it was really time consuming, and we just got to thank them for that. So imagine you get 100 submissions, we probably have to rethink how we score and evaluate them in that case. So we deliberately wanted to keep the first one a little bit small. We wanted to have control over it. We've got the process now. We've proven that SAP and Microsoft can really work together on this event. We've proven that the technologies can gel to solve actual real life problems. Some of our participants already are engaging their own customers with some of the solutions that they've built. So it couldn't have asked for more. This has just been an amazing couple of months to be part of.
Yes,
it's wonderful.
Fantastic.
I really think, Etienne, Leon, what you pulled off there is just amazing. And obviously, on the SAP side, Murali, Marin, I think that's
Absolutely. Can you guys see the names we have a deliberate shout out to the names on the background there. You can imagine sometimes with the two giant organizations, the process doesn't always flow as smooth. We're waiting for some more process to take its course, and we can really bring this out to the public. But nevertheless, look, there's no way Leon and I can put our hands up and say this is our baby. It absolutely was that great partnership, and Murali and Marina are just two of the nicest gentlemen you can ever work with. But it was really amazing.
Yeah, I remember going back. Sorry, go Holger.
No, I was just, ideally, it would have been nice to also invite them in the podcast, but unfortunately, just to put this out, we have some, let's say, legal challenges right now. So we keep this Microsoft internal for now. But I've seen a lot of fantastic blogs from Murali. Obviously due to the time zones, I meet him sometimes during TechEd events when they're on site. And I really love his work, what he's doing, and he's extremely committed. And I can only imagine that the other SAP team also contributed. They're amazing. So we have both of you on the show, which is fantastic, and I'm really, really thankful. But obviously, we could have had also some SAP colleagues there as well, which unfortunately is a little complicated. So, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember when we finished up the event, and I actually sent an email to him saying I'm going to miss our calls in the morning. It was always nice. The SAP Microsoft calls that we had while we were running the event it was great. They're really great guys to work with, and they do.
Yeah, look, I think taking 4 techies and asking them to run an event is ambitious to say the least. But we did it right. We managed to work with legal and marketing on both sides of the fence, and it was a great learning experience. So now here we are, and we can move forward and do the next one.
That's it.
Really, this is what I call initiative.
Absolutely.
Great work.
Yeah, I have to admit I got a little bit of inspiration from Holger's solutions, his integration stories, his surround. So that was definitely an inspiration to bring this together. So again, look, it was a big effort from mentors and experts and everybody combined. And you never can thank the participants enough because the quality of submissions really blew us away, right? We were all kind of waiting until the deadline for submissions on that night, waiting to see what has happened, because obviously we've all put a lot of effort into this. So once those submissions start coming in, I think we were up to like 2 a.m. in the morning still on the Teams chat and saying, have you guys seen this? And this is awesome. Go and check that thing out. So we were all waiting for the crescendo.
And while I'm thinking those, end-to-end examples, which makes sense as well, it gave me really a feeling what each component is really doing. Bots are okay, but when I see it plugged in a concrete scenario, then I have my lamp is going, okay, yes, now I got it really.
I was exactly the same. But not being a developer myself, some of these services, I'm like, I don't even know what that service does, But then once you see it in the solution, in the architecture, and you see what's produced, you go, okay, now that makes sense. Now I understand it. And hopefully, we hope that that's what it's driving inside the partners as well, that they're now learning other ways to do this. So when they come across that new problem that a customer brings to them, they can start thinking a little bit more outside the box.
Exactly.
If they've got an SAP landscape, if they've got SAP Cloud Platform and they're sitting on Azure, it opens all kinds of opportunities for them to tackle that solution. So,
solve problems innovatively.
Exactly. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Beautiful.
Good. I know. It's already late for you, and on a Friday. So thank you very much. So I can see that you're not only very, very engaged and committed to this hackathon, but also promoting it afterwards. Again, staying up late on a Friday evening. Thank you so much, Etienne. Thank you so much, Leon. I really look forward to promoting these solutions going forward, and I'm very, very much looking forward to the next iteration, and then maybe going global or whatever, because as you said, I think there's so many submissions.
Let's use the term going viral.
Going viral. Yes.
Well done.
Good.
Yes.
With this, thank you so much. So we have one more episode coming up next week with a very special guest, I would say. So
Let's
really
keep
looking
it a
forward.
secret.
Let's keep it a secret for now.
But it will be a very special guest, yeah, to wrap it
Absolutely.
up to 2020, yeah.
Exactly.
Now I
Good.
see a question mark in their eyes.
I was thinking Santa Claus. Is that who it is? No.
Oh, let's see.
Kind of. Yes,
We'll be tuning in to watch. Absolutely.
That's it.
Perfect. Okay, then thank you again for joining and see you soon.
Thank you
Bye.
very much.
Bye-bye.